Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to revisit our talk earlier from a previous video series about the best all-around rifle. But I want to expand it a little bit. So instead of just having one rifle to do it all, the be-all end-all, jack of all trades, what if you could have two? So if you haven't watched my best all-around rifle series, my rifle cartridge series, go back and watch that. But if you could only have one the rest of your life, I picked the 7mm Odd 8. What if you could have two? And as previously stated, it's not just about hunting, which I'm talking about hunting right here in this piece of paper. It's also about efficiency, and it's also about long-range shooting. So that hasn't changed. But what if you could have two? What if you could expand it to two? Sorry about the shadows and all that. So last time we talked about hunting North American game. And if you could just have one centerfire rifle cartridge, what would the best be? Now, obviously, you can't hunt everything, every game species. So I've got listed here prairie dog all the way to moose. Now, there is no centerfire rifle cartridge that would be good enough, in my opinion, to do that, to go from prairie dog to moose. It just doesn't exist. Could you shoot a 50 caliber and incinerate a prairie dog to where it didn't exist anymore, and also shoot a moose? Of course. Could you kill a moose with a 22 250? Sure. But is there a cartridge that would ideally be suited right in the middle of all that? No, there's not. I guess technically a 12 gauge, could technically do it, but you'd have to get really close on your big game animals to shoot that slug. Now, of course, I'm not talking about rabbits and squirrels. That'd be a 22 long rifle. I'm not really talking about grizzly bears. That'd be dangerous game. I think you should probably get something pretty stout for that. I'm talking about prairie dogs to moose and everything in between. Now, last time we talked more about your coyote to your elk, because that's doable. That range is doable. You can actually find several calibers, several cartridges that would do that could actually be decent from coyote to elk. Prairie dog to moose, I don't think it exists. But since we're going to go to two, what's the best duo? What's the best two centerfire rifle cartridges? We are going to expand this. We're going to expand it all the way to prairie dogs and all the way to moose. So now that we have two to worry about, it's doable. We can talk about that. Now, don't forget, it's also about long-range shooting. But since we have two involved, I'm going to say only one would have to be ideally suited or good for long-range target shooting. Only one. Don't have to have both. Okay? And my efficiency standards have not changed. So I still put more emphasis on efficiency than any other thing. But since I'm pointing at this here, let's just talk about it hunting-wise. So to make this a little easier, you can see here these brackets are unending. Okay, so like here, the 7mm from coyote to elk, but these don't have an end and they overlap in the middle, which is probably what's going to happen. Okay, what I'm going to say is this: why don't we have a gun that would be good for predators and varmints and fur bearers, and then why don't we have another gun that would be good from like antelope all the way to moose? Okay, so basically a varmint rifle and a medium to big game rifle. Now that's quite a spread. From antelope to moose is quite a spread. prairie dog to coyote, not too big of a spread. And I didn't put like mountain lion or wolf in there, but they would be in that same territory too. You know, as far as being a stout creature, they might even be up here. That's what we're going to focus on this series, is we're going to figure out what could do both. Now that's just hunting, but we're going to start there. Okay, so we've got a lot of information here. Basically got your calibers. You have your 17 caliber, your 20 caliber, your 22 caliber, your 24 caliber, your 25 caliber, 26, 27, 28, your 30 caliber, your 33 caliber, your 37 caliber, and your 45 caliber. And I kind of threw in your 32 caliber there. So this is in inches. And then I went ahead and put the millimeter designation in as well. Okay. Something to note, if you look at these, you're going to think, wait a second, 22 caliber, that's 5.56. But no, it's actually 5.69. And you're going to come over here and you're going to think, wait a second, 284, that's 7 millimeter, but it's actually 7.21. And you're going to think 270, that's not 7 millimeter, but it actually is. And you're going to think 30 caliber, no, that's 7.62. The difference is the measurement between the lands and the grooves. And the bullets go by the grooves. So the bullets are going to be actually slightly bigger than the lands of your rifle. Anyway, as you can see here, I've got a lot of calibers listed up here. 17 Hornet, 17 HMR, 17 Remington, 17 Short Magnum. Got your 204 Ruger. Up here you got your 22 Hornet, your 222 Remington, your 224 Valkyrie, your 223, your 22 250, and your 220 Swift. Down here you got 243 Winchester, 6mm Remington, 6mm Creedmoor, 240 Weatherby Magnum, 24 Nosler, 6mm ARC, 257 Roberts, 250 Savage, 25-06, 257 Weatherby. You got 6.5 by 55 Swede, 260 Remington, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 6.5 284 Norma, 6.5 Grendel, 264 Win Mag, 26 Nosler, 6.5 Weatherby RPM, 6.5 300 Weatherby. Get your 277 Sig Fury, your 270 Winchester, your 270 Short Magnum, your 6.8 Special, your 6.8 Western, your 270 Weatherby, and your 27 Nosler. Got your 7mm Mauser, your 7mm Odd 8, your 280 Remington, your 280 Ackley Improved, your 7mm Remington Magnum, your 28 Nosler, your 284 Winchester, your 7mm Short Magnum, your 7mm Weatherby. Got your 30-30, your 308, your 300 Savage, your 30-06, your 300 PRC, your 30 Nosler, your 300 Win Magnum, your 300 Rum, your 300 Weatherby Magnum, your 300 Short Magnum, your 300 H&H. You got your 338 Win Mag, your 338 Lapua, your 33 Nosler, your 338 Federal, 340 Weatherby, your 338 RCM. Down here you got your 350 Legend, and then you got your 375 H&H, 375 Ruger, 450 Bushmaster, and 4570. Okay, that's a ridiculous amount of calibers. And I'm going to pick two of the ones in this list to be the best all-around duo, the best set for bolt-action, centerfire, rifle cartridges, the be-all, end-all, do-all, jack of all trades, kill any game species in North America, shoot it 1,000 yards, no problem, and be an efficient design and an efficient round. All right, we got to cut some off this list real quick. So where would we start? Okay, so being that we're talking about two cartridges, the most balanced rounds that would kind of be good for everything, you know. So getting back to this, your most balanced rounds that would be good for hunting prairie dogs and moose would be the non-ideal choices. And when I look at this, the first group that I would mark off would be this group. 257 Roberts, 250 Savage, 25-06, 257 Weatherby. Now, to those people who love that group, I agree, I love them too. But if you're going to have two, you don't want to go right in the middle with one of them. You want to definitely going to have two different types of rounds. And personally, the thought of using a 257 Weatherby on a prairie dog or on hundreds of prairie dogs seems a bit ridiculous. But the 250 Savage, the 257 Roberts, the 25-06 seems a little bit of an underkill on a moose. Perfectly balanced, probably the most balanced right in the middle of all these, but not what we're looking for today. We're not looking for that best all around, we're looking for two. So those are off the list. Now, where else can we start to cut? Continuing with that thought, I'll just tell you that the 7mm odd 8 is not going to win again. Having said that, it is a very good round, and it is kind of like the 25 calibers, kind of right in the middle, as is this one, as is this one, this one, this one. Okay. Now, if you're wondering, I just marked off some of the greatest rounds of all time. So don't think I'm against those rounds, but they're just really good, balanced rounds that would be great if I was picking one, but not picking two. Okay. Where else can I cut? Okay. I'm going to get some more hate here. I'm going to cut out all of the 17s. I think the 17s are freaking cool. They would be fantastic for prairie dogs, groundhogs, foxes, even coyotes would be just fine. But thinking about a wolf, mountain lion, no, definitely not. And really probably not even the best on a coyote. So if I was going to have just one, for all varmints, all predators, all fur bearers, it would not be a 17 caliber. Okay, now what? Let's look at the 22s. The Hornet, the Remington, the 222 Remington, and the 223 Remington, the Valkyrie, the 22-250, 220 Swift. At this point, I'm going to leave them all in. 204 Ruger, I think I'm going to leave it in for now. What about my 6mm? 243, 6mm Remington, 6mm Creedmoor, 240 Weatherby Magnum, 24 Nosler, 6mm Arc. For the moment, I'm going to leave them all in. And something I forgot to mention, going back to this, when I cut this out, I feel like your 25 caliber, your 6.5mm, is really, which don't confuse that with what we call 6.5, but it's really 6.25 if you go by the naming convention of this. I feel like that's right in the middle, and I feel like the varmint gun caliber that we pick for all of this should be less than this. So it needs to be 6mm or smaller. And then I feel like the medium to big game cartridge that we're going to go with, which is going to hunt, antelope all the way to moose, that really should be 6.5 or bigger. So should have said that earlier. At the moment, I'm going to keep them all in. So thinking more about medium and big game hunting, what about these here? What about these rounds? For the moment, I'm going to keep them all in. For the moment, I think I'm only going to get rid of one, the 6.8 special. Cool round. Don't think it's what the doctor ordered for a moose. Could you do it? Of course you could. Would it be ideal? No. I believe for the moment, I'm going to keep all these in. What about our 30 calibers here? I feel like for the moment, I'm just going to leave them all in. What about these big calibers over here? Well, when I'm thinking about antelope, in all honesty, I just can't imagine that these 45, hold on. I just can't imagine that these 45 caliber and 37 caliber are gonna be suited for an antelope. I really just can't see that. The antelope, you're going to have a little bit of a flat shooting round. It doesn't have to be super flat, but it's gonna have to be decently flat unless you really stalk your prey good, because you can't be super close on some of these antelope. And these big, heavy arcing rounds, I just don't see it. So I'm gonna cut out the 375s. And I know that the 375 Ruger's not arcing. It's actually a really powerful round, but it's all those big calibers like that just seem a bit much for an antelope. I'm gonna cut out the 350 Legend as well. I just feel like it's just not what the doctor ordered for some of those little bit longer range flat shooting rounds when you're trying to hunt mule deer and antelope in the West. I just don't think it's what the doctor ordered. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the 30-30. It definitely, as far as killing the animal, it definitely could do it. But I feel like it's just not flat enough for out West, and it's just not powerful enough for moose. I know many moose have been killed with a 30-30. I understand that. I just don't feel like it's ideal. Now, this is not just about hunting. It's also about long-range capabilities. Are these calibers capable of doing that? But I'll get back to that later, because only one of my two rounds has to do that. If I'm going to have a duo, if I'm going to have a set, really just one I need to be for long range. It could work out where both are good for that, but I don't have to have both of them. So we'll get back to that later, but let's talk about efficiency. As you know, if you've watched the previous series, efficiency is really my number one thing. If it was solely hunting, you just get the most powerful rounds on here without destroying a lot of meat that's going to just drop the animal and game over. Okay? But efficiency means a lot to me. So I want a design of a cartridge that literally was designed to get the biggest bang out of the buck. It's going to have minimal recoil. It still might have a decent amount. It doesn't have to have none, but it's going to figure out a way to cut its recoil down, maybe boost up its barrel life to a degree, and maybe it just really is an efficient round, and for what powder it has and for what it really does a great job. So I'm going to now go through here and cut some ones out that are just not efficient. So they may be darn cool. They may be some awesome rounds, but they're just not efficient, in my opinion. So I'm going to cut them out. Just a quick note on the 450 Bushmaster. I know someone made a comment in a previous video that they have two rifles, and that's their woods gun, and they have a 270 for the fields, for the more open shots. I think that's a great idea. I think it's really cool. For whitetail deer or elk or something, that would work perfectly. I just don't feel like it's flat enough for out West. But I've never used one, so maybe I'm totally wrong on that. But in this particular list, I've crossed it out. Okay, so those were just, to me, the ones for hunting purposes that just did not make it. Either they were too well balanced and they really would do better in another list. They just were right in the middle and wouldn't be really good for moose or prairie dog. They were just too much in the middle. Or they just weren't enough for one extreme or the other. Okay, if I haven't made you mad yet, prepare to get mad, because I know that's going to happen. All these rounds I'm getting ready to mark off are, in my opinion, fantastic rounds for hunting. But this is not just hunting. This is the best all-around set of rifle cartridges for hunting, for long range, but they must be efficient. The 220 Swift, in my opinion, is not efficient. If you want the fastest 22 caliber, there you go. It's got tons of powder capacity. It's flat shooting, but that's not going to be efficient, okay? It burns a lot of powder, and it does get more performance, but at what cost? The law of diminishing returns. How much, percentage of powder does it take to get that percentage of performance? It's not enough. It's not an efficient round, in my opinion. Oh boy, here we go. The Weatherbees and the Nosslers are going to be that way across the board. I know people just turned this off. I'm going to keep the RPM for the moment. We're going to go through and make everybody mad and take out all of these. All the Nosslers, all the Weatherbees. They're gone. Okay, a couple more what I would consider obvious choices. The 338 Win Mag, the 338 Lapua, and the 338 RCM. I'm just going to go ahead and cut out all the 338s. They're fantastic, possibly ideal for moose, okay? They're awesome. But my gosh, for a whitetail deer, they're not efficient. They're just going to kick too hard, burn up too much powder to be hunting antelope and whitetail deer. So they're just not going to make it, okay? Now, I have a ton of respect for the 300 H&H Magnum, but it's not really efficient, okay? It's an old style, super long cartridge, super tapered. It's just not efficient, but it's dang cool and I like it, but no, it's not going to work for this. Now there's some other ones in here that I don't consider super efficient, but for the time being, I'm going to leave them in. Okay, I'm going to go on from here. Okay, so we're going to stop the video here. I cut out a huge swath of calibers that I just don't feel like makes the cut. Tune into the next video and we're going to get it narrowed down, start to get it narrowed down. But just to recap, we're going to end up with 2 rifles, 2 cartridges, but not to do everything. We're going to have 2. We're going to have one for varmints and predators. We're going to have one for medium and big game. At least one of them to have to be easily shootable at 1,000 yards, okay? You don't have to customize your rifle with a different twist rate in your barrel or do something really out there to get your barrel to easily shoot at 1,000 yards, to get your gun to shoot. One of those 2 have to do that, and it has to be efficient. These super long cartridges are just gigantic bullets on there and really powerful rounds like the Nosslers and the Weatherbees. They're all about hunting and they're cool and I have respect for them, but they're not efficient. They're not what I'm going for. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to be just powerhouses, and that's what they are. So tune in next time. We're going to figure out if you could only have 2 rifle cartridges for the rest of your life and you wanted to hunt anything from prairie dog to moose, shoot it 1,000 yards, but have good, efficient, cool rounds, what would it be? Find out next time.